You wake up one day and wonder, when did I start feeling so small? It wasn't a scream that broke you. It was the silence. The quiet moments where your voice disappeared inside your own chest and no one noticed. The nights you replayed that conversation 1,000 times in your head, trying to say what you couldn't say in the moment. The mornings you looked in the mirror and saw someone you had to convince yourself to love. And confidence? That word feels like it belongs to someone else, someone louder, someone untouched, not you. But what if I told you your mind was programmed to doubt you, not because you're weak, but because you learned somewhere along the way that shrinking kept you safe. You watched people lose love when they stood tall. You saw others punished for being too much. You learned that being quiet, being pleasing was how you survived. You were never broken. You were adapting. But now, you're tired of adapting to pain. You want to remember who you were before you were told who you should be. You want to walk into a room without needing to earn your right to be there. You want to trust your instincts. You want to stop apologizing for simply existing. This video isn't going to give you a 5-step formula. This isn't about pretending to be fearless. It's about peeling back the layers of who you're not, so the real you can finally breathe. If you've ever struggled with the voice inside your head that tells you you're not enough, stay. If you've ever walked away from a mirror, feeling more lost than before, stay. If you've ever felt invisible in a room full of people, stay. Because what you're about to hear isn't just for you. It's for the version of you who still believes they have to earn love. It's for the child in you who never got to feel safe in their own skin. It's for the part of you that's still hiding. We're going to talk about how to reprogram your mind, but not from a place of fixing you, from a place of finally remembering you. If this speaks to you even a little, I invite you to take a breath. And if you feel seen, if something inside you stirs, hit that like button. Subscribe if you'd like more moments like this. Not for the algorithm, for you. Now, let's begin. There was a moment, you might not even remember it, when your mind learned to protect you by making you small. Maybe it was the first time you raised your hand and someone laughed. Maybe it was when you were told you were too sensitive. So you started measuring every word, every glance. Maybe it was when you asked for love in the only way you knew how, and the response was cold, or worse, nothing at all. Your mind did something miraculous in that moment. It decided, let's not risk that again. So it built a story, not a loud one, a quiet one that whispered, don't speak unless you're sure. Don't act unless you're perfect. Don't shine too brightly. They might turn away. And you believed it. How could you not? It felt safe. But that safety came with a cost. Because now, even in moments where you're surrounded by people who care, your mind still prepares for rejection. Even when you're ready to speak up, your throat tightens. Even when you try to receive love, something inside you flinches. That story, it's still running. And here's the hardest truth of all. Your mind doesn't know the difference between danger and discomfort. It doesn't know you've grown. It doesn't realize you're strong enough now to sit in the fire without burning. It only knows the past, and it keeps replaying it like a warning. But you're here, listening to this, which means some part of you knows it's time to stop listening to fear dressed as wisdom. Carl Jung once said, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life, and you will call it fate." So ask yourself, how much of your life has been directed by silence you didn't choose, by guilt you inherited, by a fear that isn't yours? Let's talk about confidence, not the loud kind, not the kind that walks into a room and demands attention. I mean the kind of confidence that doesn't flinch, that doesn't explain itself, that doesn't beg for proof. It starts in the shadows. Because confidence is not found in pretending to be unbothered. It's found when you admit how much something hurt, and you choose to rise anyway. When you stop performing worthiness. When you stop shape-shifting. Confidence is the quiet rebellion of saying, I don't need you to choose me. I choose me. But how? You start by noticing the story. The next time you hesitate, pause. The next time your voice shakes, listen. The next time you feel like you're too much or not enough, ask, who told me that? Whose voice is that? Because chances are, it's not yours. The reprogramming doesn't happen with affirmations alone. It happens when you meet yourself in the moments you usually abandon yourself. When you speak the truth you were taught to hide. When you grieve the moments you had to be strong. When you stop calling your fear intuition and start calling it what it really is, a scar. This is the work, the soft, sacred, slow work. And I know it's easier to download another book, another podcast, another technique. It's harder to sit in a room in silence and meet yourself without flinching, but that's exactly where your power lives. Underneath the noise, you've probably spent years becoming who others needed you to be, the peacekeeper, the achiever, the strong one, the one who never complains, the one who always smiles even when it's breaking inside. And somewhere along the way, you forgot the sound of your own voice. Not the one you use to say the right things. I mean the one that trembles when it's honest. The one that says, I don't want to be everything to everyone anymore. I just want to be me. But when you try, there's resistance. Because the truth is, healing hurts. Not like the chaos of old wounds. This is a different kind of pain. It's the ache of letting go of the version of yourself that once kept you safe, and yet you can't stay there anymore. Because the cost of pretending has become heavier than the fear of being real. This is where reprogramming begins. Not with fixing, but with facing. Facing the moment you learned that your worth was tied to how much you could give. Facing the belief that if you're not perfect, you'll be left. Facing the silence you've lived in for so long, you forgot that your truth deserves to be heard. You don't become confident by erasing your past. You become confident by reclaiming it, by looking at the child who still lives inside you and saying, I see you. You don't have to perform anymore. You're already enough. By reminding yourself that survival patterns aren't your personality, that guilt isn't the same as love, that boundaries aren't rejection, they're protection. And let's be honest, this part of the journey is lonely. Because not everyone will understand your decision to stop explaining, stop pleasing, stop shrinking. You might lose people, but you'll find yourself. You'll find a voice inside you that doesn't shout, but doesn't tremble either. A calm, clear knowing, a quiet kind of certainty. The kind that can walk away from what doesn't feel right, even if it once felt like home. The kind that can sit with discomfort without abandoning yourself. The kind that no longer begs for permission to exist fully. Confidence isn't built in moments of applause. It's built in the dark, when you choose truth over comfort, when you choose to stay, when everything in you wants to disappear. And when that inner voice, the one that always says, not yet, or maybe later, or you're not ready, starts speaking again, you'll learn to pause and respond differently. You'll say, thank you for protecting me, but I don't need you to keep me small anymore. Because your power isn't in what you say when you feel brave. It's in what you do when you feel afraid, but you choose yourself anyway. That's when everything changes. Somewhere deep inside you, there's a part that's still waiting. Waiting to feel chosen. Not for what you do, not for how well you carry others, just for who you are when no one's watching. Maybe that's why it's been so hard to feel confident, because you've never been fully met in your rawest, most unfiltered state. You learn to earn love, to chase approval, to anticipate needs before your own. And when people praised you, it didn't feel like love, it felt like pressure. They saw your strength, your smile, your calm, but they didn't see the silent exhaustion behind it. The ache of being needed but never truly known. So now when you try to show up as your real self, something pulls you back. That voice, that quiet, convincing whisper that says, if they really see me, they'll leave. That's not truth, that's trauma. That's the voice of the past echoing in the present. But here's the thing, your fear of being seen is the same as your longing to be seen, and you can't heal one without touching the other. So you begin slowly, by letting parts of you rise, not all at once. You let your voice shake when it needs to. You tell someone how you really feel without softening it for their comfort. You choose to rest even when no one gives you permission. You stop apologizing for needing space. Each time you do, you reclaim a piece of yourself. Each time you break the pattern of disappearing, you rewire your mind to believe something new. I don't have to disappear to be loved. This is the part that people don't talk about. The grief that comes with growth. The tears you cry when you realize how long you've been gone from yourself. But this grief isn't weakness. It's release. You're letting go of a lifetime of survival. You're making space for something you've never fully known. Safety within yourself. You're not just reprogramming your thoughts. You're rebuilding your inner home. A place where all of you is welcome. Not just the polished parts. Not just the calm exterior. All of you. Even the angry parts that we're told to quiet down. Even the soft parts that were never protected. Even the confused, messy, uncertain parts that are still figuring it out. Especially those. Because the most unshakable confidence doesn't come from pretending to have it all together. It comes from loving yourself exactly where you are. There will be days when you forget. You'll slip back into old rhythms, overthinking before you speak, doubting your worth in someone's silence, adjusting your truth to keep the peace. And it'll feel like failure, but it's not. It's just the echo of a life you no longer live. Healing isn't a straight line. Reprogramming isn't a switch you flip. It's a slow return, over and over again. And every time you catch yourself trying to shrink and instead choose to stay, that's a revolution. You won't always feel strong. You won't always feel clear. But confidence isn't about never falling back into fear. It's about remembering that you can come back to yourself every single time. Even when your hands shake, even when your voice falters, even when the old beliefs knock on your door, asking you to play small again. You'll learn to hear them without obeying them. You'll learn to say, I know where this came from, but I don't live there anymore. Because your body remembers what your mind tries to forget. The tension in your shoulders isn't random. The tightness in your chest has a history. The sinking in your stomach is a signal, not that something is wrong with you, but that something in you wants to be free. That's where the real work begins, when you stop pushing it away, when you sit with it, when you say, talk to me, what are you trying to protect? And suddenly, the shame becomes a doorway. The anxiety becomes a map. The fear becomes a compass. And you realize it was never about becoming someone new. It was always about returning to someone ancient, someone original, someone who never needed fixing. You don't need to be louder to be powerful. You don't need to be fearless to be worthy. You don't need to have it all figured out to take up space. You just need to be honest. Even if that honesty costs you admiration. Even if it breaks the image you've spent years constructing. Because the love that will stay, the life that will feel real, only begins when you stop pretending. There's a softness that comes when you meet yourself like this. A warmth. A quiet knowing. You are no longer chasing safety in the world. You're becoming the safe place you always needed. That's what reprogramming truly is. Not erasing the past, but giving it new meaning, new context, new compassion. You're not stuck. You're sacred. You're not behind. You're becoming, and all of you is invited. There's something powerful that happens when you stop rushing your healing. When you no longer demand instant transformation and instead allow the grief, allow the tenderness, allow the confusion that comes when you don't know who you are without the old patterns, but you're brave enough to let them go anyway. This is the quiet threshold between your old life and your real one. It doesn't announce itself with clarity. It comes slowly, in fragments. In moments when you speak a truth that once lived only in your body. In times when you say no and feel guilt, but still don't take it back. In spaces where you feel lonely, but realize you are not abandoning yourself to feel connected. That's the deepest kind of confidence, the kind that doesn't need validation because it's built on inner integrity. No one sees that part. They'll notice when you seem calmer, when your energy shifts, when you no longer chase, over-explain, or collapse to make others comfortable. But they won't see the nights you cried because choosing yourself felt like loss. They won't see the shaking in your hands when you finally drew that boundary. They won't hear the silent war inside when you chose truth over peacekeeping. But you will know. You will feel the shift. You'll look in the mirror and recognize yourself in a new way. Not as someone perfect, but as someone real. Someone you trust. Not every day will feel like a breakthrough. Some days will feel like breathing through the old ache, like walking barefoot over memories that still sting, like hearing that old voice whisper again, "Who do you think you are?" But even then you'll know. You'll know that your mind is learning a new way to respond, not with panic, not with perfection, but with presence. You'll pause. You'll breathe. You'll remember, and you'll speak back. I am the one who stayed. I am the one who chose to heal. I am the one who came back to myself. That's what makes confidence unshakable, not arrogance, not performance, but alignment. A deep-rooted alignment between who you are and how you show up. You're no longer living to be palatable. You're no longer adjusting to stay acceptable. You're no longer sacrificing truth for connection. You're walking differently now. Not faster, not louder, just deeper. And in that depth, you find everything you were once searching for in others' clarity, compassion, belonging, because it lives in you. It always has. Maybe no one told you this before, but there is nothing wrong with the way you feel. That wave of emotion that hits you out of nowhere, the tightness in your chest when you have to speak up, the tears that come before words can even form. That's not weakness, that's honesty. You've carried so much, silently, skillfully. You've worn strength like armor and called it resilience, even when it was exhaustion. And yet, you're still here. Still trying, still listening, still reaching for something softer, something truer. Do you realize how powerful that is? Reprogramming your mind is not about suppressing emotion. It's about making space for it, making space for you. All of you, even the part that still feels afraid to ask for what you need, even the part that sometimes wishes you could go back because at least back then you knew who you were supposed to be. But going back is no longer an option because now you've tasted freedom, even if it's only in moments. The kind of freedom that whispers, you don't have to pretend anymore. And once you've heard that, there's no unhearing it. You're not too sensitive. You're just deeply in tune. You're not too much. You've just spent too long around people who asked you to be less. The more you reclaim your truth, the more your nervous system starts to believe you are safe right here, as you are. Not because everything is perfect, but because you're not abandoning yourself anymore. And isn't that what you always wanted? Not a perfect life, not constant confidence, just the ability to exist, unedited, to say what you mean without rehearsing it 100 times in your head, to walk away from what hurts without feeling like you're the problem, to rest without guilt, to cry without shame, to rise without apology. You don't have to earn the right to feel good in your own skin. You just have to remember what the world made you forget. You were never too much. You were never not enough. You were always becoming. And every time you meet yourself with tenderness instead of judgment, you're rewriting the code. Every time you choose truth over performance, you're creating new pathways in your mind. Every time you say, "This is who I am," even if it's messy, you're taking your power back. That is how the mind reprograms, not through force, through love. There's a version of you soft, steady, whole that's been waiting patiently beneath the surface. They don't demand to be seen. They don't perform. They simply are. And with each step you take away from the noise, away from the old patterns, away from the need to prove yourself, they come closer. You catch glimpses. in the way you speak to yourself when you mess up, in the way you no longer rush to fill every silence with reassurance, in the way you let someone be disappointed in you without betraying yourself to fix it. That's confidence. Not the curated image, not the highlight reel, but the quiet courage to stand in your truth even when it shakes, especially when it shakes, because you're no longer chasing love that asks you to abandon yourself to receive it. You're no longer addicted to being understood. You're no longer needing everyone to get it. You get it, and that's enough. The old you, the one who needed to anticipate every emotional shift in the room, who apologized for taking up space, who tried so hard to be good, they're tired, and they deserve to rest. Let them rest. You don't have to carry their armor anymore. You don't have to wear their mask. You are not here to be digestible. You are not here to be pleasing. You are here to be real, to be whole, and sometimes that wholeness is soft and open and full of grace, and sometimes that wholeness is sharp and angry and setting boundaries. Both are sacred. Both are valid. Both belong. Your healing isn't a straight line. Some days you'll feel 10 steps ahead. Some days you'll slip into the old ache and wonder if anything has changed. But every time you pause, every time you notice your pattern and choose differently, you're rewiring more than just your mind. You're reawakening your soul. And you don't need to be perfect at this. You just need to be honest with yourself. You just need to keep returning, again and again, until returning becomes your rhythm, until choosing yourself becomes muscle memory, until your mind no longer asks, "Am I enough?" and instead affirms, "I am." That's what unshakable confidence really is. Not the absence of fear, but the presence of self. One day, you'll wake up and it will feel different. Not louder, not easier, just quieter. Like something heavy you've been carrying for years finally set itself down. Like the noise in your mind isn't so urgent. Like the fight inside your body has softened into stillness. You won't need anyone to say it, you'll feel it. I belong to myself now. And maybe for the first time in your life, that's enough. No performance, no pretending, no reaching. Just breath, just presence, just peace. And it won't mean the wounds are gone. It'll mean you're no longer afraid to touch them. It'll mean you trust yourself to walk through whatever comes without abandoning yourself along the way. This is the rebirth no one sees. Not in the mirror, not on paper, but in the moment you stop looking outside of yourself for permission to be who you are. You stop scanning rooms to know how to feel. You stop bending to be loved. You stop shrinking to be chosen. Because you know now, what you were looking for in everyone else was always a reflection of what you needed to give yourself. Safety, respect, presence, belonging. You're not chasing love anymore. You're becoming it. You're not proving worth anymore. You're remembering it. The programming that told you to be quiet, to be pleasing, to be small, it begins to fade. Not all at once, not with fanfare, but slowly, beautifully, like mist lifting after a storm, and you begin to live fully, messily, honestly. And even when doubt visits again, and it will, you won't run. You'll welcome it like an old friend, sit it down at the table and say, "I remember you, but I'm not yours anymore." That's the difference now. You are not at war with yourself. You are not trying to be someone else. You are not performing healing. You are embodying it. Because this version of you, the one who stays, who speaks, who trusts, was never far. They were just waiting for you to return. And now you have.